Now, this next series, there's going to be one game out of this series that is talked about for years and years and years. The New York Knicks just kind of pissed, pooped, and farted on the Hawks. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of the Seventh Man Up podcast. I'm your host, Alex Burleson. So, the NBA playoffs just ended the first round, and man, there were a lot of great series. Almost all of them were really great series, so let's get right into it. All right, first series I want to talk about. Oh, man. Phoenix never really had a chance, not even a little bit. That 1-8 series was looking like how the 1 seed would easily get past round 1 in the 90s and 2000s. With the exception of this series, as of the past few years, the 1-8 matchup has been pretty competitive, and I like that. The Suns had no chance against the Thunder. Just simple as that. The Thunder were too powerful for the Suns. Next series, I want to talk about the Spurs beat the Blazers in 5 games that, in my eyes, seemed to be semi-competitive. What I mean by that is that it was a fun series to watch. For the Blazers, Deni Avdija held his own. They just didn't have the firepower to last with San Antonio. And the Spurs are packed with stars and rising stars, where for the Blazers, their only star is Avdija. The Spurs, they got Wemby, Fox, Castle, and Johnson as their star core. Now, depending on how far they can go this year and longevity of health, this could be the start of a new dynasty run for San Antonio. This next series was fun, exhilarating, heartbreaking, and wholesome all in one, and that was Minnesota taking down Denver. The Timberwolves are limping into the next round with injuries to Dante DiVincenzo, who is permanently out with an Achilles injury. And what jersey number does DiVincenzo wear? Number 0. What's up with all these players that wear number 0 getting an Achilles injury? You had DiVincenzo, Lillard, and Halliburton. Crazy, right? Man. And speaking of injuries still for the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards hyperextended his knee. Now, as of this recording, he has returned for the next round, which is good to see. Continuing on with the Timberwolves, my preseason guess on who will get out of the West was the Timberwolves. Has my guess changed? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm staying true to my word, so I'm sticking with the Wolves. Now, this next series, LeBron took down the KD-less Rockets in 6 games. And again, as a Kings fan, I despise the Lakers, but I have to give them props. Even with how old he's at, playoff LeBron is always dominant and shows up big time. Now, besides LeBron, the other player for the Lakers that stood out was Marcus Smart. As defensive focused as he is, Smart was electric with the 3-ball in that series. Now, that was all the first round series for the West. Now for the East first round series. A lot of drama over in the East got me wanting to watch the East Coast version of Laguna Beach. Heck, what would that be called anyway? Erie Beach? Reminds me of when Bleacher Report did that Game of Zones, an NBA animated spoof of Game of Thrones. So many wins! Oh my gosh. Alright, so now on to the East teams. Detroit ended up beating Orlando in a tough, almost historic upset by the Magic. Instead, it was historic in the other way. The Orlando Magic were up 3-1, and the Pistons went on to win 3 straight to advance. A wild series the next series was, and that was Boston against Philly. Boston was the 2 seed, and Philly was the 7 seed. At the start of that series, Boston had a healthy Jason Tatum, but that started to fade as the series went on. For the 76ers, Paul George looked real smooth, was looking real close to his Indiana Pacers self again. Now, Joel Embiid was fighting through a recent surgery to play and also lingering injuries. And in a tough, and I mean a tough, really tough 7-game series, Philadelphia won. Now, this next series, there's going to be one game out of this series that is talked about for years and years and years. The New York Knicks just kind of pissed, pooped, and farted on the Hawks. Yeah, the Hawks got a couple games, but overall, when you look at that series, all you'll remember and look at is that game 6. Now, the Hawks, they were at home and got murdered by 51, while the most they were down by was over 60 points during the game. And you've heard it by my guy Josh Carson on the pod that even when the Kings would lose, I'd say lose with dignity at least. But the Hawks, they lost with no dignity at all. I gotta give the Knicks props. They did their thing. Brunson, Anunoby, Cat, after all that, all performed really well, and I'm excited to see how far they can get. Now, the 4-5 seeds in the East went at it. Cleveland ultimately won in 7 in a series against Toronto that going in, I thought was going to be that one boring first-round series that happens every year. Now, going back to the first series that I talked about, OKC against Phoenix was that boring series. Like, for real, it was an easy 4-game sweep. Now, even though Raptors lost the series, I can't get over that RJ Barrett bounce shot. In my house, watching that, I did the Greg Anthony, whoa! Now, you're a real hoop junkie if you get that. And every time a bounce happens and it goes in, I call that a Kawhi bounce. So RJ Barrett got a Kawhi bounce. Kawhi Leonard did it first. So I'm not going to call it an RJ Barrett bounce. It's a Kawhi bounce, right? Continuing on with that series, let's talk about that Game 7 for a minute. Cleveland was on Toronto from the jump. Quicker on both ends, more aggressive, and it definitely seemed like they wanted it more. So, good job, Cavs. You're finally doing something without LeBron. All right, so that was all of the playoff series from the first round. Now, moving on away from the playoffs, I just thought of this. How both Lakers and Cavs legit have a chance to get to the finals. How cool for the moments, legacy, and ratings for the NBA if both the Cavaliers and the Lakers made the finals. You have the Cavaliers, who are LeBron's hometown team, the team that he was drafted by, the team that he won a title with, mind you, after him leaving and then coming back. And then the Lakers, LeBron, he's on that team and he hasn't announced it yet, but there's a lot of speculation that after this season, he will retire. And why I say that is, even with how star-powered of a player he is, he has stated that he doesn't want a farewell tour. And I kind of respect that. It shows that he's kind of humbling himself, which is good. So with that, though, I hate the Lakers, but love LeBron. So I wouldn't mind him winning it all this year, even if it against Cleveland. Like I said before, I think it would be great for the NBA. It would boost ratings. And the moments throughout the whole series, however it goes, I think will be really cool. Next up, I got a Keon Ellis hot take for all my fellow Kings fans out there. I love Keon Ellis, but I'm starting to see why the Kings were starting to not play him, especially in big moments. When it came to the offensive end, he was too passive at times, not taking control of the possession when the ball was in his hands. The Kings were getting too impatient with that. Now, to end it here, I'm going to give you some biblical encouragement. Now, I want to draw this from the story of the Good Samaritan. There was that man sick and broken down on the side of the street, and no one helped him until one person noticed, but also took action. Now, all of us can notice what goes on around us, but taking action is what really counts. My encouragement to you is take action upon noticing what's around you. I love playoff basketball and can't wait to see what else happens. All right, everybody, That was the podcast for today. And as always, remember, stay up with them threes up. Love, joy, and peace. See ya.